Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. This is take 3. Trying to make this video. Today is it's September the 5th. This is our first personal 9-day since August the 20th. What has been happening personally over the last 17 days is that we've moved through the personal internal numerical cycle 1 through 8 and then 1 through 9. I talked about this in our in the video for the galactic moon calendar. So we've personally moved through 1 through 8 and then 1 through 9, and tomorrow's, we go back into regular order. This is also the midway point of the year. Each year has about 40 and a half weeks, or is it 41 and a half? Anyway, we're about in the midway point of the year. Okay, so this is week 19. This is a 8 on our regular external cycle. And we're 2 days out from Sabbath, right? And so I had the purpose of this video is to document these kind of cycles so that we can have something to look back at when it comes time to start figuring out how these energies work. Again, we're not commanding the energies, we're observing the energies even within ourselves, and then we're documenting how these energies work. So this is my contribution to that. Okay, so over the last 2 nights I had 3 dreams, and at first I was like, these don't even seem to be related. But when I had the second dream I had today, then I was like, okay, these are related. So yesterday in my dream, not yesterday, the night before last, not last night, the night before last, in a dream that I had, I was in a house. I don't know where I was, but it was dirty. It was filthy, right? And but it was nice. Like, it was a nice house, had a pool outside, but it was dirty. And so I was just standing there, and there were these 2 white women. One of them I know in real life. One of them I know from the internet. How would I describe this? I don't have a problem with anybody, but I don't have like a problem with these women, right? And so one of them, I can't remember all of it, but one of them was like cleaning the trash out of the house. Like, she was going through and picking up all the trash and taking it out the house. And the other girl was washing the dishes and stuff like that. And I was just observing them do that. Like, I was like, I don't know where this trash came from. I don't know where I am. I don't know why I'm here. So I was just observing them clean, and I was like asking questions and stuff like that. But I can't remember what I was talking about. So that was one dream. And then last night, the first dream I had, I was driving around 2 of my students, 2 of my chatty students, and in my car, and I had told them I got to stop for some engine oil because I was in my personal car. I was like, I got to stop for some engine oil. And the male, he was like, if you turn, here, it's right around the corner. But that's not I was talking about going to Dollar General. And I was like, but that's not the Dollar General I was thinking about. But I was like, okay. So we turned the corner, and it was like we drove into a downtown area. So before, we were in a really rural area, unlike that I've ever driven through, because it was so many trees. And then when we turned the corner, we were like in downtown, like a big city. And I was like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about this Dollar General. Either I said, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you at first, or I'm glad I listened to you. Because I did. I listened to what he said, and I turned, and we ended up at the Dollar General. And then I woke up because I had to go to the bathroom. And I had another dream once I went back to sleep. And this is the one I want to talk about. In a dream, I was complaining about my daughter and her behavior, which frequently I do. And to one of her teachers, who is white. And it's the same person who was in my first dream on the first night, the night before last. And so I was like talking to her on the phone, and she and I were talking. I was explaining to her why she needed to just get over it. Like, in general, just get over it, right? And the teacher was like, well, how do you just get over slavery? And then I started to explain to her this, and this is the part that I wanted to explain to everybody. Number one, a lot of our people on this land were not enslaved, okay? It just didn't happen, not in real life. It may have been slavery on paper because that's how you made sure nobody came in and messed with your family, okay? It's no different than how marriage is done. You get married to somebody on paper, you go to the courthouse, you submit a document, you have children for custody. It's all on paper, okay? Understand that. If you were a slave, it was a paper slave, okay? And then if you were an actual slave, like you had to do hard labor against your will, most of us lived in communities with people who looked like ourselves. And so everywhere you're looking to blame someone from another race, you can only find more of yourself. I said this to everybody when we were talking about Jesus's crucifixion, and people were saying, no, it wasn't me, I wasn't there, so on and so forth. And I kept saying, no, if Jesus is a black man, right, and he was crucified on this land, then it wouldn't have been anybody there except people who look like us. We're talking about black people. And I got a lot of pushback when I said that, but it's absolutely the same with this slavery. If you were a slave, a forced person forced into hard labor against your will, it was someone in your family. And like I was saying to this lady, I said, my grandmother had like 6 sisters. She had 8 siblings. And so if it was anybody who put me into slavery, it was one of them. You know what I mean? Like, and well, also flashback, I had a dream where they did put me into slavery. So what are you going to do about that? Like, are you going to punish all black people as a black person for what these other black people did to you in a time that you don't even understand what was actually happening inside the culture? Because you don't know. We don't know. The books are all lies. Like, even people who are telling stories about their ancestors. Remember, the silent generation, the Pluto and Cancer, are prolific liars. They lie about everything. Because Pluto was in Artemis' house. And I'm not saying Artemis herself is a liar, but keep in mind that when Artemis picked a fight with Hera, okay? And then what happened? After Hera mollywopped her with her own weapons, she went crying to her daddy. So that's what the silent generation, that's the essence of the silent generation. Like, they lied about everything. So we don't know, obviously, whatever Artemis told Zeus was a lie. We could just tell by the way these people behave. And the reason why I say, again, that they're prolific liars, and this is not as an insult, this is just a description, is because so many of them, given the opportunity to say, no, I'm a native, I'm a Negro, or, you don't want to be a Negro, right? I'm a native, I'm from this tribe, I'm from that tribe. They lied, and they just said, we're white. Like, and then and you have to think about the ramifications of that too, right? Because if you're a person who can pass for white, you go into an all-white community, and you start living your life as a white person because you can pass for white, that means you always have to straighten your hair. Like, you can't let your Negro features get too big. You always have to do your makeup, like your eyebrows and stuff like that, to be like theirs, either lightening them or whatever. You have to make up a story about your parents, your grandparents, coming from the old country, which they didn't come from. Like, it's a lie that turns into another lie that turns into another lie. And then if you never tell the truth, like you just never, then you got to cook like these people. Like that means you're not eating your normal diet. You're eating a diet that's, stuff that these people eat. So, and it's not your natural native diet. Right. And so this little, like, I'm just going to pass as white turns into this whole big deal. And so in the dream, I was telling the lady, I was like, how long are we supposed to carry this, like, thing? Like, she has to just get over it. Like, we're way past that time period. We have an opportunity to, tell a whole new story. And if you're still living in, oh, I was a slave and my grandmommy was a slave and my great grandmommy was a slave and we did this and we did that. What I'm telling you for a fact, it's not, most of this is a complete and total fabrication. They just made it up. I mean, even the quote unquote native researchers are falling into this trap because they're finding books that correlate with their perspective, and they are buying into that. So for example, we had a conversation on this channel about, no, we didn't. Okay. Maybe we did. I don't remember now, but the Nottoway Indians are from Virginia, right? We might have, or maybe I need to make another video on that. And I believe that PBR was a Nottoway Indian, okay? Because the individual who opened the Nottoway plantation in Louisiana, now why would they have done that? They went from the 13 colonies to the Louisiana territory. This is why they would have left as a family, because think about this story. If you don't, okay, let me explain why. On the Nottoway plantation in Louisiana, part of it burned down, okay? That was like closer to the beginning of the year. And people were like, Nottoway, where'd their name come from? And then basically is the story of how this one man by himself, listen to how this story sounds, had these 200 slaves. And when the Civil War came, he took the 200 slaves and fled to Texas. Okay. And they stayed in Texas until the war was over, and then they came back to Louisiana. Now that story doesn't make any sense. What does make sense is these were Nottoway Indians from Virginia that saw this war coming and was like, we don't want to be involved with these demonic 9 people, because anyway, we don't want to be involved with these people. They're doing weird stuff. They're trying to start a blood battle on the land, which is not allowed. We're not allowed to have bloodshed on the land. It could only be internal. We'll have to have another video about that, because I don't want to make this video too long. The point is, they fled Virginia for Louisiana. Why would they have gone to Louisiana? They already had their temple, or not their temple, their tents, their booths set up for when they did the Feast of Booths. Because if you don't know anything about Virginia, it starts to get kind of cold in October. Like, so if you want to travel while the weather is good, you would travel in September by foot, or however they travel. Let me not get the line. However they travel, you would travel in September, because September is like mid-range weather. Like, if as a person who has lived in the north in Maryland, and I live in at the north in Maryland, but further north in Maryland, and now further south in Florida, I'm telling you, September would be your best time to travel, because the weather is nice. It's not too hot. It doesn't get too cold at night. The season hasn't fully changed. And so you would travel at this time so that you could be at your where you're going to stay for the winter. If you don't want to stay up north because the weather is harsh, you can't grow anything, all this stuff. So 9 times out of 10, they knew they had this tribe, right? The Nottoway Indians, this tribe, which would have had a safe house in Louisiana where the weather is nice during the winter, right? They would have gone to their safe house, right? And since they knew what was going on, because, messages were being passed, they picked a person amongst them who could pass for white. And they had that person live as a white man. And they said, he is our slave master and we are his slaves. Even though that was just like their cousin or something. Like, That was one of their tribal members. And so when the battle started coming to Louisiana, what they do? They went to their other plantation house in Texas, because our people didn't just go to one place. We might have went to one place this year, one place the next year. We had multiple, the way I view it is, we had multiple booths set up, probably one in every FEMA zone, so that no matter what was happening, we had somewhere to go. Like if something was going on in this zone, we would go to the next zone. Something going on in that zone, we go to the next zone. I'm sure of it. Okay, this is my assessment. Nobody told me this. Nobody taught me this. But doing the research on this other stuff, this is how I came to this conclusion. So what happened was, these quote unquote slaves, right? They were just trying to stay with their family, with their tribe. That's what happened. And that's how our people live. Like, you can see it in these kind of stories. Now, I mentioned this to one of these quote unquote tribal people, and they were like, there was a tribe in Virginia. It's like, do you not understand the culture of our people? No. So this is why I can't get into the camps with these different individuals, because now the quote unquote tribal blacks are falling into the same trap as the Hebrew Israelites. It's clear as day. The only one who can't seem to see it is them. But me, I got sight on me. I can see. They're falling into the same trap. And I wish they wouldn't, but I know they can't help themselves, because these people want to be justified by what is written in a book. And they can't, because everyone who wrote the book lied. All the people who wrote the books lied, because they never told you the time. They never told you the time. They were telling you facts outside of the understanding of time, number one. Number two, they can't even channel the energy. Which is crazy, because if it's really in your blood, you can channel it, which makes me think it's not really in their blood. You know, for me, I know it's in my blood because I can channel the energy. I can follow the thought process. I can look at our gods of this land, these Olympians. I can look at them and see, oh, okay, this is how this thing was going. I got it. This makes sense. Right? They set the template. The Olympians are the Titans were the ones they were the first out. They were rough. They were raw. It was really, whatever energy. The template was set by the Olympians. Now it's our responsibility to take that and apply it to our stories today. So whereas you have this situation where, in the mythology, Hera doesn't like Artemis because Artemis tried to challenge Hera's power. Now we're setting up a scenario to say, Artemis, we understand that you want your own whatever, but Artemis was given a very special blessing. Artemis is related to the Temple of Cancer. Cancer is the 12 o'clock portion. It's the harbinger of time. So we have to remind Artemis energy, all of this Cancer energy, hey, you're the timekeeper. You're the one who says when we start. Like, that's your job. You get to tell us every year when we start. So why don't you be grateful for your inheritance, your bow and arrow, right? What does the clock even look like with the arrows, the bow and arrow? Like, literally, like the harbinger of time. And so she have to be reminded that this is what her place is, and to stay in it and not to challenge Hera for what is hers. Hera is Aquarius. Hera rules the temple of Aquarius. She is the water bearer, and we are the water, right? She's the water bearer. She bears the water. And so we have to make sure these energies all stay in their place, because when they don't, you have battles like the Trojan War. And so in my dream, I was just explaining, like, at some point we have to move on from this. We cannot continue to carry this in our hearts as the truth, because it doesn't seem to be the truth, right? it doesn't seem to be the truth. And the longer we carry it as truth, which is false, the worse off things are going to be. And so, when you're trying to move past your, like, again, this is our first 9-day in 17 days, or 16 days, when you're trying to move past your own generational trauma, sometimes you just have to say, it is what it is. And you have to make the choice. This is what I always say about my daughter. You have to make the choice to be a good person. Like, knowing that this is in your past, you experienced this, you went through this stuff, that's fine. And sometimes you can just say, that is in the past and we're going to move on to the future because the future is bright. And that's what I wanted to communicate to people. Like, the future is bright. The future is amazing. We have some fantastic things that are coming. But if you're still holding on to the past, like these Hebrew Israelites, like these black Indians, holding on to the past and crying out for a return to the past, you missed it. We don't go backwards. This thing only goes forwards. And so you're setting yourself up for a type of misery that you don't want, And I'm not going to allow people who follow me to just walk into this blindly. I'm going to say to you all, hey, why don't we move in a different direction? Because now is the time to move in a different direction. We can do it now. We can do it together. And it doesn't take a whole lot of anything except for people to reject timelines that don't align with where you want to go. This is why you have to know where you want to go, what you want to do with your life, what it means for you to reset your nervous system, what it means for you to be happy, what it means for you to be in alignment. Again, going through these cycles, we're really going to see this up close and personal. But I have to, remind people that this is the goal. Like, my goal is not to, now that we're done with the no unnecessary pain and suffering and no unnecessary loss of life. We are done with that storyline, okay? Now, we want safe passage and safe harbor. I'm going to make another video about that. We want safe passage and safe harbor. That's what, everywhere we go, we want safe passage. And when we arrive where we're going, we want safe harbor. That's what we want. Safe passage and safe harbor. That's the future of this energy. And so that's what you're going to hear me say. Now, that I'm going to make a video about that because we got to, you're going to see a few videos from me today, but I wanted to get this one out the way first because I just had this dream and I thought it was important. We are moving past the generation. Now we're not worried about unnecessary loss of life and unnecessary pain and suffering. That storyline is over. Now we're in the storyline of safe passage and safe harbor. I want to reiterate that. So shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.